Right. All right, everyone. So glad y'all are joining us tonight. This is East Oak Studio doing our 30th, I repeat, our 30th Painting from Life. We are so excited to have been around doing this as long as we have. Tonight we have me, yours truly, painting at the easel. We have our very new addition to the studio, Evie Irv. Come over. Y'all need to walk over, say hi. Hi. And then everyone knows Erica Arcudi. And then we also have the wonderful Chelsea Lang. Now Chelsea is going to be sort of in the background. She will be also, though, available for questions. So just make sure you say, Chelsea, this, that, and the other. We only have 3 mics, so we'll be doing a bit of sharing to make sure everyone gets it. Hers is not on camera because we don't have enough cameras. The whole thing, all right? But we're super excited about having her. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Yet, as usual, I'm running a little behind, so I need to still put out my paints. But everybody else will get started, and behind the mic is going to be Miss Tina Figuarelli. So excited. She's another intern artist here at East Oak Studio, and will be helping us on the mic. Tell us where you're from, tell us what you're doing, like the thing, share, subscribe, all the things, and we'll get started. Also, to let everyone know while I'm talking, is that we have the reference images should be up shortly. I'm not sure if they're up yet, but be patient. Typically, it takes a second for Kelly to get the reference images up. But we do have lovely reference images of our still life tonight, and we're super excited about it. So, and again, here's the still life setup. Just click on the link below once it arrives, and we will be going from there. So on these other angles, later on I might send another wide angle to a different spot so that we can see each other a little bit better. So, all right, everybody talks amongst yourselves. I'm gonna start putting my paint out.
Woo!
Okay, so we have some people in the chat. We have, let's see, Joyce from Washington State. They say they're looking forward to the presentation. And then we have Jeannie. She is from Santa Fe. Let's see, Jose Rivera from Michigan. Fathi from Jordan. Wow. And then Colleen from Georgia, J.R. Foster from NYC.
Hello, everybody.
So glad everybody joined us. This is awesome. We love it when y'all paint along. So as soon as we have those images up, please feel free to go grab them and bust out your paints and enjoy the evening with us. It's funny, I would say, Evie, Erica, what have y'all been doing lately? But I feel like I see y'all every day, so I get to know what you're doing. But tell everybody else what you've been doing lately.
Drawing. This is actually my first time painting in several weeks now. It's been a minute. So it'll be lots of fun.
I am working on a still life of roses and eucalyptus. Actually, what we have here in the setup is leftover from my own setup. And so hopefully this will give me, my experience will help me in this painting. So I have some practice.
Chelsea, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, I like how Erica like just backed up to me so I could say like, well, my canvas is blank. I'm figuring out what paints to put out. Can I phone a friend to find out what I've been up to? But glad to be here.
I'm excited because this is a 2-day still life, so I feel like I have a little bit more time.
We have a few more people coming in. We have Liad Goldberg from Austin and Dean Marsh from California. And Liad says, hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Liad. I was just talking to Liad earlier this afternoon. Okay. Okay, so Evie and Erica, I am curious what y'all have been up to since I have not seen y'all in a hot minute.
I know, it's been, how long has it been now?
It's like 2 months.
Gosh, that's crazy. I don't know about y'all, but after like the thick of the pandemic and all of the craziness the last few years, my timekeeping abilities are a little wonky. Well, you don't want to see my lovely giant bush of hair.
Yeah, the funny thing is you make a better door than a window, I guess. So. But everybody would love to see your lovely painting you're working on. So perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, you can keep talking.
Well, since our last stream, Erica did an absolutely gorgeous self-portrait.
I was like, I can't even think of when.
What was that?
Like you said, my sense of time is distorted. Yeah, so I was working on a self-portrait for a while, and then I was working on coming up with ideas for next paintings, and that is a whole process. And part of that was sketching and doing like word clouds and coming up with like composition ideas, and just try to be as open as possible with just letting whatever came to my imagination happen, and really trying to dig down into what interests me and what do I want to paint, and then kind of slowly honing that into something that is interesting. And so one of my goals as a painter is just in kind of looking at my own work at this point, what I'm trying to do is scale up a bit. I do a lot of maybe things that are 8x10, 9x12, that kind of scale, and I'd love to be able to increase the scale. So the painting that I'm working on right now, after doing all of this sketching and coming up with concepts and stuff, is this eucalyptus and rose painting, and it's about 24 by 30 inches. So I'm excited to be painting something that's a bit larger. Long story short.
That's exciting. I totally hear you on being excited to start scaling up. I have had like similar thoughts lately, and haven't really been able to embark on it yet, but I feel like we could have some cool conversations around that.
It's something that I find it, like, I mean, one of the challenges is, you know, if this may sound too simple or too logical, but, you know, as you scale up, you have to fill the space with something. And so, you know, you might have a general idea of, oh, I'd love to, you know, incorporate, you know, this subject or that, but then actually having the space filled up and in a thoughtful way that is designed well and everything like that, where everything in the painting feels like it's meant to be there. It takes time, and it's not a waste of time to have to think through something, even though it feels like, oh, if I'm not painting, I'm somehow wasting my time.
No, I totally feel you on that. Like, one of the biggest things I have to like help artists with as they try and like find their own voice is really explaining just how important it is to take time coming up with ideas, getting clear on whether you like a composition, and like every minute that you thoughtfully put into that shaves off like hours of painting time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And part of what I did to prepare for this larger painting, beyond, like, I did a little thumbnail that was on tone paper. It was charcoal and white chalk on tone paper. Really, really, really simple. And like, it wasn't developed at all as a drawing, but it was something where I understood my kind of abstract design first, and understanding where my composition was headed. Then I did a color study to understand my color harmony and composition again. And so doing all of that preparatory work was definitely useful as well. And it's something that, like, if you can do that kind of anytime you kind of act on your idea, it helps inform you on how to make it better. So, you know, not letting it sit in your head for too long. You know, if you feel like you need to get started on something, you know, do a study, you know, go ahead and try it out and see what happens.
We also have Gail in chat. She says, hi, I haven't been here in forever, from Oregon. And she also says she's been watching Chelsea's YouTube lately. Can I just say thanks for this event and for her videos too?
Gail? Yeah, on the topic of working on studies, I remembered a thing I've done since we last hung out. I did another Sargent master copy, and then used that to inform an original portrait that has, like, dare I say, more of like an East Oaks feeling. And that was a blast. It's like a 4-part YouTube series that I have up on my channel, and it's funny because I kind of set out with this intention of capturing some of like Sargent's brushwork, but instead it wound up being like this exciting exploration of color and, more specifically, value. If I had a nickel for every painter who feels as though they really need to work on their color skills but aren't realizing there's so much that's like still left unturned value-wise. Like, I learned so much about value in this particular painting, and frankly, it was a blast.
I had a teacher in school who said, value does all the work and color takes all the credit.
Yes.
I love that.
it's a great tool to, like, when you're working on a painting, or if something doesn't feel right, like this color's off, it's, you know, that kind of list of, okay, how can I break this apart to understand what I need to do? Understanding the value is a good place to start.
Yeah.
You know, just double checking whether that's working.
Liad in the chat says, I've done color paintings with a single value. It's a wild way to paint.
It's a what?
A wild way.
Yeah, Liad's done some really cool pieces that have literally no value variation whatsoever, but they're like an entire portrait. They are really, really cool, and you have to be so precise on your understanding of value and your control of your mixtures to accomplish it, but it's such a neat challenge.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Especially after all the value stuff you've been working with.
Yeah, I have recently had some really, really great learning experiences working with graphite, and I've just been learning a lot about, you know, compression and just really careful control of values and building form. But it is certainly exciting to be holding a paintbrush again.
Nice. How would you describe what you've learned about compression? I talk about it pretty regularly, and it's like one of the most common questions I get on YouTube videos is like, what on earth do you mean when you talk about compression? So yeah, I'd love to hear what you've learned and how you would describe what you've been doing.
Yeah, so compression, well, I guess the very first thing I learned is that I wasn't doing it. As Louis could probably attest to. And it refers to the closeness and value range of specific objects, and how you know, you form and build value relationships. And previously, before I did these studies, I looked back at some of my work from before I did these studies, and it's just it makes such a big difference in creating like a three-dimensional aspect to an object, and creating space within it. And the first project I did was a study of a skull, and Louis helped me quite a lot in, you know, really maintaining a good control over values, and you know, it was much more of a form and value study rather than an anatomy study, but that was several weeks on the first drawing, and I have maybe like an hour or two left on my next study. That is a graphite drawing of a bird wing hanging over a like skull cap from a young deer.
Oh, cool.
So I've been really excited about doing that one. But yeah, I think it really impresses the importance and educational value of being able to work within the realm of different media and translate, you know, the lessons that you learn from one material to another.
Nice.
I think one thing as you're working on understanding values, and this is something I'm working on being more sensitive to, is, you know, values are important, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to use the entire range.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to use pitch black or pure white. Like often most kind of sophisticated or subtle, beautiful pieces, in my opinion, have a more limited range. And so then it allows you to explore edge quality because you are grouping shapes together and like that compression aspect. And then that by doing that, then it opens your world to edges and all of that sophistication, even if your value relationships are different or are close together, not so spread out.
Yeah, grouping was something that I had never even heard of before doing my skull drawing. So it really just goes to show the value of having a great mentor.
I'm hoping that was also a pun. Yeah.
Huh? Yay.
And not only edges, but shape design as well. Looking at your kind of abstract bones behind a piece. Looking at the big shapes that your values make, and the implied lines that it creates. All of those like compositional elements have their kind of backbone and values. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean values in terms of it all has to be, pitch black and pure white, but, finding what something feels like. If you have three shapes, the three abstract shapes, and your value compression is like dark gray, mid-tone gray, and light gray, like it has a very different mood than something much wider or keyed up, in a brighter range. And so all of that design stuff, things I'm interested in exploring as I'm working on my painting stuff.
Louis, you want to talk about what you've been up to?
Well, I gave my mic to
Yes.
Oops. You want to use? You can use mine if you want.
No, at liberty for y'all to keep talking. How about at break? I'll
Yeah,
switch
we could do a
Perfect.
switcheroo.
Yeah, a little switcheroo on the
Musical
audience.
microphones.
Yes, musical microphones. So that, or I'll just be like, step closer, Evie. But I would. Now, these jokes is up to stuff, and we've got a lot of things going on. So.
We have a question from Jackson. Can you elaborate a little bit more on grouping?
So let me take a minute to articulate this well. Grouping is, you can also call it compression. Understanding, you can take, for example, this still life and divide it into maybe, let's say, 5 values. You could probably even say 3. And that forces you to have to group together areas of similar values into one unified shape. And so as an example, we can look at the eucalyptus, and if I really look into it, I could break it up into an infinite amount of values. But if I'm stepping back, squinting or blurring your eyes or just looking at the big picture, we can see that you could probably divide it into one dark and one light. Even though there's a lot of information going on, you can still find what's similar and group that together into one unified shape. And then as you paint, you can break that up as necessary, depending on your composition or what your focus is or how much you want to be detailed. But the idea is seeing what values are similar to each other and grouping them together. Or having, for example, if your value range is 1 through 10 and you're really compressing it into only 5 values, then you're going to have, values 10 and 9 grouped together into one kind of average value of darkness, if that makes sense. And so it's easier if I have have my value chart and I can break it down into this would be a representation of these values grouped together. But a way you can do it in terms of studying it yourself is finding a painting or drawing that you like, copying it, but only copying it in thumbnail size and only giving yourself 3 or 4 values to work with. And then how are you going to solve that puzzle of combining or recreating this drawing, but only using those values. And then you'll start to see that, oh, maybe I can group my lights and my highlights all into one shape, and maybe my midtones can all be one shape, and my shadows can all be one kind of value and shape. And then when you do that, you can see, oh, I can actually get the big picture of something without having to break it up into all of the values. Like, you're understanding your essence and your big picture, your big relationships. So that's how I think about compression. There are different ways of thinking about it. That's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, for a long time I did make value studies thinking of anywhere between 3 and 5 values. And recently I took some classes with Devin Corwin, who has a background in the entertainment industry's approach to drawing and painting, which is one that's heavily based on construction and being able to work out of imagination effectively, having a really solid understanding of anatomy and the physics of light.
That's super
and
cool.
A really interesting piece of, an interesting exercise was he really made the point that shifting the focus from 5 values or 3 values down to 2 forces you to make one really critical decision, which is, are you exposing for the lights or are you exposing for the shadows? Granted, I'm using the language of photography here, but if you think about Impressionism, typically exposing for the shadows, the majority of the visual information, the color information, the detail happening in the shadows of those paintings, whereas the lights tend to be really blown out and flat. Here, the still life we're doing today, if I had to break this down into 2 values, I would think about all of the information existing in the lights. We're exposing for the lights in a composition like this one. And ever since he walked me through that, I was just oh, I just want to go tell the world, do no tans, work in 2 values. It's so helpful.
Yeah, another way of, I've heard where I'm compressing towards the light, making a decision when I'm looking at a setup, am I keying it or compressing it towards the light or towards the darks, and that can help you establish when you're making those decisions of what to group and where to put it.
Yeah.
Having that decision made beforehand.
If you think about it in 3 values, do you put your middle value in the lights, or do you put your middle value in the shadows? And how does that affect your composition and the way that you handle the entire rest of the painting?
And that's, I think working on toned paper is a nice exercise with that. If you have charcoal and white chalk and toned paper, or pencil and white chalk or whatever. But you have to decide what is the value of the paper and what does that represent. And there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It just depends on how dark you're compressing something or how much white chalk you put on. It's a little bit more open-ended. But it's a fun thing to try because you have to be more active with how much light you're putting in and how much dark you're putting in. And you have more flexibility in that. And so those are things that how I was taught at the academy, using a lot of, as we were transitioning into painting, working a lot with toned paper. And I thought it was a really useful way of starting to understand that there's choice in how you're composing whatever you're observing.
You had been learning at the very beginning, flattening shadows, starting with
Oh yeah.
what's in the light.
Learning, as you would say, the power of flatness.
Power of flatness.
That was like my mantra for several weeks.
I love being able to talk about something while I'm not painting it, because I can like sit on my high horse and talk about value compression while I have like 17 values that aren't clearly organized.
Yes. Sure. Maybe it's the placement of my mic. Do I need to place it elsewhere?
Just on break, we'll switch to
Okay.
There's always something. You know, it's what we love about the serendipity of life and art and technology. Is it me?
Am I the drama?
Ruh-roh. These little shallots are so cute.
Do you have them in your composition?
I have 2 of them.
Nice. I have onion, but that's all.
Trying to put as few ellipses as possible.
I am excited to paint this bowl though, like on the topic of ellipses, but mostly it's because of like really capturing the surface quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like how that's gonna relate to value and color. I am hype. Let's see if I eat those words later. I've been watching, it's this, it's not a YouTube channel, but it's like a virtual TV channel. Like you just have to subscribe to it kind of a thing. It's called Dropout. They like host a lot of the like D&D or like nerd content that I'm super into, and they have this game called Game Changer where the premise of the game, the show, changes every week. And every week the contestants have to like figure out, okay, what are the rules of whatever game we're playing this week? In 1 week, the game was Survivor. But being an entertainment channel, like everyone who's participating on these shows, they're comedians. And one of the contestants commented that he was so excited for this because Survivor is his favorite thing in the whole world. The one part of it he couldn't stand was being outside. And the fact that they brought Survivor inside to play as comics was the best thing in the whole world. And I kind of feel that way about coming here and painting with you all. I don't know what this is analogous to, but I feel like it's like my favorite part about a team sport, except it doesn't involve throwing or catching a ball.
I want to find that hidden immunity idol. No.
Yes.
Don't vote me off the island.
It's in your value compression. That's where it's hiding.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it. Chelsea, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you before, but I used to have this really nerdy joke growing up that Gary Gygax was my real daddy because my parents met by playing Dungeons and Dragons. So
That's awesome.
the nerdiness it runs strong.
Good, good.
Easter's going to be doing a Settlers of Catan night sometime in the near future if you want to join Chelsea.
Excellent, I do. At first I thought you said we were going to do like a painting from life where we just play D&D. I thought that's where that was headed for a hot second. And I was like, I know you're joking, but I'm into it.
That would be, wow, not to like get terribly off topic here, but can you imagine, like, I want to do a D&D campaign where it's like, you're, I don't know, back in time in the Renaissance and you, I don't know, get to go to all these historic artist studios and I don't know.
Yes.
That would be my kind of D&D campaign.
Yeah. Would we all be playing bards though?
Well, perhaps. Only if we didn't have to sing, because nobody wants to hear
That's
that.
true. Yeah, no. But like you can be a bard and be a visual artist. We just have to roll performance checks for like how accurate is your drawing. I need to stop this. No one's going to be following what I'm talking about.
I was going to call our YouTube people who started flaking out. Everybody's probably into this.
This could be
I like this idea. Thinking outside the box here.
Yeah.
Game night. That'll be fun.
Kenzie says, I'm following and loving it.
Yay!
And Liad says, you could be a mage that makes painting illusions, and I don't know D&D, so I'm a little lost, but
I feel you.
That'd be pretty cool. A painter mage.
Yes.
Magic brush that can create anything to come to life.
Oh yeah. Art is magic. Yay!
Actually, in high school, I wrote a whole story about in a creative writing class, and I had a whole story on how this person found this old sage who had a magic paintbrush, and you would use it to paint, and it would make anything to come to life. But you could only use it for good. And then a villain got a hold of it and tried to create bars of gold, and we would only turn to rocks. And eventually the kid ended up doing a lot of good stuff with it. I don't remember the whole story, but at the end he ended up being the old sage and encountered another child that he foresaw would be the one to take over the responsibility.
See,
It's
you
like-
have everything you need to play D&D.
Yeah, you've got it.
D&D is just collaborative storytelling with dice rolls.
Yep.
Love it. I'd be all about it. I'd love to try it sometime.
This is how we get
We've
you.
done this before, haven't we? Didn't we say we need to try to get one going?
Yes.
You said we're going to start with something basic.
Yes, I had like a long conversation with Alex about a, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's not a Let's Play, because that's video games. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the new genre of like live streaming D&D campaigns. I was like recommending one to him. And I was like, if you like this, that's how you know.
Yeah.
I could see him, yeah, I could see him getting into that.
I'm gonna keep working on him.
We'll get him to embrace his inner nerd.
Yes. I want to know what paintings come out of this. Because when I play D&D, I inevitably want to like paint scenes or characters from the campaign. So.
Oh yeah.
There's a gentleman that came here. I'm trying to remember his name, but he came over for a day to just check these stokes out. And he is an illustrator, landscape illustrator for Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, was wanting to push more, but that's like he made his pretty much a full living just making Magic the Gathering cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never played Magic, but both of my brothers do. And they've been trying to get me to play it for pretty much my entire life. And I never do, because all I want to do the entire time is just look at the gorgeous illustrations.
Yeah.
That's enough information to start. Things down.
Do you guys want to talk about the setup for the still life today?
Yeah. I think you and Erica should talk about the setup and still like that.
Does my microphone work?
Yeah.
Oh, it does work?
Oh my gosh,
How do I
Erica,
mute
I'm so
this?
sorry.
How do I mute the whole time?
It was Evie's that was the problem.
Okay.
I fixed
Hi,
it.
everyone.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh, Erica, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I was wondering why
No, I didn't have much to contribute to the D&D anyway.
Well,
I've never played.
We can change that, Erica.
I've never played. So it was okay. You didn't miss much from me.
Yeah, when I was working downstairs earlier, I heard you and Tina and Louie working on a setting up the still life for tonight.
It was a collaborative effort to create the beauty that you see in front of you.
It was so much fun. One of my favorite collaborations we've done.
Well, y'all certainly did a great job. This is beautiful.
Lewis came in this morning with this giant loaf of bread. It's like, it resembles a pillow. That's how large it is in real life. And the garlic and shallots were a last-minute run to the grocery store.
Yes, the bread was what started it all. And then we slowly added more and more objects. The bread and the gourds, I think.
How much do people at the grocery store eye you funny for how closely you were scrutinizing the shallots?
I've done that where I've had to explain. Like I've been to different nurseries to buy flowers, and I'm like looking at all of them in the round, you know, and you're like employees, oh, do you want any help? I'm like, I'm a painter. I'm just
weird.
Let me do this. You know, everyone's been cool about it. It's just they're like, oh, okay. Or when I went into Whole Foods asking for specific types of eucalyptus. Like, do you have this one? What about that one?
I did have a very suspicious bread lady today.
A suspicious bread lady?
Oh man.
She's like, because she, there's all these whole loaves, and I've got, the little gloves that they give you. And I'm over there, and I'm like picking one up, and then setting it up on the side, like right where the shelving is, kind of stepping back, looking at it, tilting my head, and I'll put it down and get another one and put it up. And she's, after about the 5th time of doing that, she's like, can I help you? Oh, no, just, looking at the shapes of your bread.
I'm so glad I asked that question.
It was a thing.
I think that goes back to that idea we were talking about earlier of like every minute that you spend considering your composition and like really making sure that you're satisfied with the setup pays dividends. And like, I think it's easy for painters who are earlier in their journey to really underestimate the amount of not just thought, but also like time and effort and like doing tedious stuff, like walking back and forth away from a loaf of bread 5 times to figure out if you like it.
I mean, how many times did we roll the dice on those shallots?
Oh my gosh. We kept pushing them back and forth, and then finally you just set them out like, just scattering them. We're like, that's it. That's what it was. What it needed to be. I think it's easy to get into the thought, by just looking at what people post on Instagram, just saying, oh, I'm seeing everybody's finished work, like, look how productive they are. And so if you, sometimes it distorts our understanding of the process.
Yeah. Not to mention the number of like unsuccessful paintings that just don't wind up on Instagram.
Absolutely.
The carnage of unsuccessful paintings. I don't know if y'all follow some of like the meme art pages, but there's like one that posted something recently where it shows Leonardo da Vinci sitting next to his Mona Lisa, and he's like, I worked on this for 4 years, and was so proud of it. And then there's like one below that is like, I haven't posted a painting in 3 days. It's like getting frantic about it. Which is so true.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a funny pressure of being a professional artist in this day and age, is that, on social media, people are just so accustomed to like immediate gratification, and every day you want to see a new painting, and it's like, well, we're only human.
That's not how that works.
Talk about anxiety-driven. People have to be so careful of that, because you can also be following a thousand people, and so you're seeing new work being produced every day.
All the time,
Yep.
yeah.
And it can make you feel very self-conscious that you're not throwing something up there. I'm already having fun. This is such a blast.
There's so many different textures going on in here. Like, I cannot wait to get into the surface of that big bread loaf. That's going to be really fun.
A little bit, only to make sure my drawing is decent enough. But it's definitely that balance between like needing to go forward because we're on a limited time, but then also being sensitive enough to the drawing, like certain drawing aspects that are really important, like the placement of the objects on a table. You can have a beautifully painted, anything, but if it's floating, then it's not going to feel like you want it to feel.
Statement.
So I'm keeping things a bit loose right now, and then not getting into too much texture or anything. Keeping things flat, as we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah.
Grouping, all of that good stuff. Thinking about big impression, and that way I can spend time working out some drawing stuff. In that way, tomorrow I can get into the fun bits. But I have a nice foundation. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Another goal is to make sure I stick to that plan.
Does anyone want to share their like game plan for the still life? Because there's a lot of elements, obviously, in the composition. So like, what are you thinking when you're starting, and what are you planning on starting with, or what are you going to save till the end?
Personally, I started with understanding, like we were talking about earlier, with compression and abstract shapes, design, those elements. So I made sure I understood what my placement of all of my objects were on a large scale, like understanding where my big diagonals were going to be, making sure what things weren't lined up precisely in the center, stuff like that. Working all of that out before I start painting, and then drawing in the sense of understanding where my objects are, their proportions, but really understanding the big light effect. So where is my direction of light, not getting too much into details, just understanding, my light shapes and shadow shapes and how they are working together. Now I'm massing in my background and kind of the general light shapes and shadow shapes that I see, but using kind of a general color value to lay that in. So it'll look kind of flat as I'm starting, but the general effect will be there. And so that's what I'm prioritizing at this moment.
See, I think that's what I should be doing. I'm catching myself a little bit because I find myself getting a little caught up in the nitty-gritty too early, which I am prone to do. So yeah, it's always a good idea to step back.
Yeah, I use my mirror a lot at this stage to make sure that things are going where I want them to go. That I'm not getting too far, like having that fresh eye, flipping the composition backwards, just checking so I don't get it, as I get into things, making sure that they're not moving around in a way that's negatively impacting the drawing. There's a bit of multitasking where I try, as I'm laying in my background, I'll try to correct the drawing as I do it. So trying to be efficient as I work. And I'm keeping my paint pretty thin, knowing that I'm probably going to paint over it. So I don't want to build up anything when I'm at a stage that's so flexible.
And when you keep your paint thin, do you prefer to use like a medium or like paint thinner, or just use transparent paints?
I am a fan of scrubbing things in. I have a little bit of lean medium here, but I try not to use too much of it, just because I find if things are too slippery, then things turn sharp and I can't control the paint. So I'm a fan of just kind of really just scrubbing stuff in, dry paint, and then a combination of that paint application with certain transparent pigments added to it to help so that things don't become too opaque. So combination of a few things. I find that if you have, if you use a lot of medium at this stage, things become really sharp, which implies that your decision making is certain. Like, I know this is going to be here because it's sharp. Like, that's how it can read. And if I'm at a stage where things are a little bit flexible and I'm moving things around, softness ends up working in my favor because it's not so kind of set in stone because of the paint application. There's like a psychological response to your lines sometimes.
Evie, how does it feel to finally be oil painting?
So good. So good. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a while, and I've learned a whole lot since the last time I painted. It's definitely very refreshing. As much as I love graphite, I love me some paint.
I remember the first time when I went from graphite to paint after training, it was like, oh, this is so nice.
Yep.
I feel like that going back to drawing, since my personal experience has been more with drawing. And so like I go back to drawing, I'm like, oh, I can breathe, like this painting stuff.
That's great. I will say when you paint for a long time, you're just constantly going through your drawing, making sure that all these things are right and you're using the right marks for the right spots and all this kind of stuff. When you go back to drawing, you're kind of like, oh, this is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All you have to think about is value and work, patchwork, and line quality,
Until you have to spend 2 weeks filling in a flat black background.
Yes.
Oof.
That was brutal.
I love how you said you only have to think about hatchwork and line quality as if it's like...
Yeah, right. It's like an easy thing, right? No. Touche.
No, only in the sense that it's sometimes refreshing to work on those things without having to be like, oh, is the color right? Is the temperature right? Is,
Yeah, I agree with you. It's still hard. Chelsea, have you done any travels lately?
Travel. We moved all of the horses out to a farm in Hillsboro. So if you count driving out to Hillsboro like 4 days a week, yes.
That's a long drive.
Yeah. But no, nothing exciting. I hesitate to like throw that question back to you, Louie, because I know you're not on the mic. But yeah, have y'all been, or how was the opening? How was New York?
Oh, yeah, Divya's show?
Yeah.
I wish she was here to tell you about it. Yeah, she had a wonderful time. I guess I do need to be mic'd up here a little bit.
I know.
Wonderful time. No, I'm good. And if y'all want, we can take a break here in a second. And does everybody feel like a break, or do y'all want to?
I could use a swig of coffee.
Okay. How about we take a quick 5-minute break? How about you announce that for us? And
All right, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, so we will be right back.
And Chelsea just commented on my tackle box that I keep all of my paints in. That's because I'm like relocating myself downstairs. But it is what I take all of my paints in when I'm traveling to do portraits of kids.
Nice.
And the fun story of that is I've had that tackle box since I was 5 years old.
Aww.
My uncle gave it to me. And I think he meant to give it to me for the purpose of tackle, actually going, fishing. And that was when I really wanted to become an artist. And my great-grandmother the same year got me oil paints. And they had these like long little slats in it. And I was like, this is perfect. And so I put them in there, and I have used it ever since. 35 years later, still using it.
Well, and I've told you the extra fun part of that fun story, right?
I can't remember.
So Louis' tackle box is actually the very same one that my mother used when she was taking art classes.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
wow.
So she
Did we have this conversation?
We did.
Oh my gosh.
It was like
shows
months
my
ago
age.
though.
Okay.
It was months ago.
I'm feeling bad now.
But so my mom gave me hers when I went off to art school. And then the first time I saw Louis, I got really confused because I was like, wait, did I bring that here? So
That is awesome.
yeah, it's a great tackle box.
And it's a great story.
So yeah, tell us about the opening.
Well, I think that they had a wonderful time. Divya sold at least half her show. Yeah. And so they are, I think she's really excited that it's over and that it was a wonderful experience. I think it was all the things, the experience of being challenged to do something like that when you've never done something like that before is so healthy, because it shows you what not only you're capable of doing, but what to expect as being full-time as a gallery painter. So for that reason, I think she really enjoyed it. And so, I'm sure there'll be more in the future, but right now I think both of them are just getting very excited about traveling to Australia for the next foreseeable months. So, and spending time with her family, and it's a good reward after such a thing.
I'm so glad it went well. I know she was feeling like just anxious and excited for it to be done. And
yeah. Poor thing. We all saw, her going through the stress to get it done. But this is like the third or fourth person I've seen do a solo or spotlight show here, and trying to like help. Just, it's not much you can do to be a support, but to kind of just be there and just like be like, you got this, while they're going through it, because it's a challenge.
I feel like that's the East Oaks catchphrase.
You got this.
You got
this. It kind of really is. It has been our sort of go-to phrase for a while now, I guess. But yes, she's had a good time. So also, everyone, this is reminding me, and Kelly just sent me the reminder also, we are so excited that all these demos, as well as past demos from these painting from lives, as well as other demos that we have done in the past in different situations and studies, are all up for sale for the holidays on our website. There, Kelly has put a link in the description below so that you can quickly and easily access it. We released it a few days ago, so we've sold quite a few. There are still, I think, about half being sold, and we keep putting up more. So I will be putting this up there as well after I'm done with it to be sold, and I'm sure that there will be other people in this group that will do the same.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, we're excited, and just note that most of the proceeds go to the artists themselves, and the small amount that does go to East Oaks goes to support the artists again that are all here at East Oaks. So it allows for us to have a few dollars to hire the models and to buy the bread and all the things. So go over there, get some Christmas presents for your friends and loved ones. Now back to silent concentration.
Oh yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of selling work, has there ever been a painting that you sold that you kind of regret selling and that you miss it?
Oh man, this is a good question. Chelsea, how about you? Good. Oh, you're not mic'd. Here, how about you, Chelsea?
I probably did this whole rigmarole to... Okay, cool. You know, interestingly, I don't think so. There have been paintings I've intentionally held on to for a certain amount of time, and I enjoyed having them. And when they finally sold, like each and every one of those paintings have gone to somebody who I know is going to love it so deeply, and they're such great collectors that honestly, at that point, like the thought no longer crosses my mind. So feel really privileged to be able to say that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think oftentimes if you have a deep emotional attachment to a work that you've finished, it helps to make more work after that to get attached to. And then it's all, it's kind of like okay, you've birthed the thing into the world and you can let it go now.
Yeah.
Fly free.
Yes.
Little bird.
Yeah, I think that most of the time if I'm selling work, it's typically a commission. And I have a real hard time letting go of pieces that have been passion projects. I'm usually like, it's not for sale. But, I think I'm always a recovering hoarder as it is. So sometimes I think it's my own problem. It's a personal problem.
Comes with the territory of being an artist.
Yes. So it's kind of like, I put so many hours into this, it's like my right arm. But ultimately, I do find myself going, oh, I could let this one go for now, because I've moved on and, like you said, had other things that have become other moments. But I do have paintings and drawings that have sort of been like milestone pieces of where I had like a eureka moment or an aha situation where I'm like, you know what, that one I want to hold on to because it means something, probably more than what it would mean to have the monetary value of it come back to me. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's one that I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had that. There was a few that I sold that I was like, oh, I don't know if I really wanted to have sold that one. But then now that I'm looking back on it, it's been fine. I haven't lost sleep over it.
What about you, Erica?
I was thinking more about when I moved back from Florence. I had all of the student work that wasn't sellable necessarily. And, what do I do with all of that work? Am I gonna throw it in the bin or take some of it home, you know, and making those kinds of calls. So I'm glad I saved, long story short, I'm glad I saved certain pieces. So I know this is not really the question, but I'm happy I saved some pieces, because even if they're not necessarily good pieces that I'm gonna sell, like Lewis was saying, that it demonstrates a certain learning, or like how far I've come in my education and experience. And so I have some really I like looking back at my first figure drawings, my first pencil drawings of the figure, and looking back at them and being like, wow, like I've come a long way. And so they're mostly for me. So things that I don't think would be sellable because of just the content and the quality at that time. But I'm still happy I have them.
Like we were talking about off camera, like I have self-portrait I'm working on right now. And it's the first one I've done in a very, very long time. And, you know, my wife came down and looked at the progress, and she was like, do you think you'll want to sell it? And I'm like, I don't think, I kind of don't think I want to, because, you know, I don't know, it's one of those, maybe the next one I do. Or if it doesn't turn out quite the way I expected, and maybe the second one does, then you go, okay, well, I can let this one, you know, go. But yeah.
You gotta let it simmer for a little bit.
Yeah, you know. They always say that as artists, you should paint paintings that you would want hanging in your own home, because you don't know if they will sell. So if that's the case, then so far I've done a great job, because I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to just like look at this one for a bit, you know, because I put all this work into it. So
It's definitely one of the questions, or things I was considering during my kind of sketching week. It's like when I'm trying to come up with ideas, what do I paint, and why am I doing this, and all this stuff. Really asking myself, would I put this in my own home? Like this idea, this concept, I think that's actually a really useful way of coming up with an idea, or finding out whether it is your own voice that's coming up with the concept. If it's like, I wouldn't actually want this, it can be a way of reflecting about what ideas you're having, and maybe finding ones that you do want to have.
it's true. Great point. One of my favorite parts, I think this goes across the board for people even watching, but one of my favorite parts is just watching, taking the breaks and looking around and everybody's approaches. It's fascinating. Even if you have the thought process of the same approach, your approach still feels different. Just shows how much identity we hold, where it'd be nigh impossible for us to be able to mimic somebody else's, because there's so much of us in how we approach things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said there for just, reiterating that there's no right or wrong way to do it. The only wrong way to do it is to not do it.
Hey.
Does anyone have like a painting pet peeve that they always deal with, or is like something that just really grinds their gears when they paint?
The things that I do that annoy me that I do, or
Like in our own work, or like when we're working, like things we have to fight, or
Or things that other people
there's
do.
definitely things that I do all the time that I'm like, I'm annoyed at myself that I do it. I have my own pet peeves of me. Boy,
I don't know about pet peeve.
it's almost one of those I need a couch to recline on and somebody to take notes. Back in my childhood. Yes, I do. I'm trying to pinpoint some of them in my head.
Like mine would be when I have like 30 brushes and I continue to use the same one that's dirty and I just am too lazy to clean it. So that's my own pet peeve about myself.
I was going to say, it might be cleaning brushes.
Cleaning brushes is like if I ever got really wealthy as an artist, I might just hire a brush cleaning guy that just comes in and cleans your brushes for you. That and that same person can stretch canvas for me too, you know. And frame.
Maybe signing work on it. Honestly.
I was thinking about maybe like hiring somebody, and I was thinking you wanted to hire someone to do your signature.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. No, I don't know. My normal like handwriting script, I guess I always write in cursive. And so, like it took me a while to kind of like design how I wanted my signature to look. 'Cause if I were to just do it in like my normal everyday handwriting, it'd be pretty illegible.
I think coming up with titles for paintings.
Oh man. I think he hit a nerve there, Erica.
That's actually like one of my favorite things. I love coming up with titles.
Oh, I'm gonna bring
If you title my painting.
You got a deal.
bring
Oh
all
my
my
gosh.
work to you. I think what's frustrating about that process, like anybody would say, is you come up with the visual poetry of it, and it's not about the words, it's about what's on the image on the canvas or whatever. It's so much about that and not about saying it, that having to come up with something that says the thing that you're actively not trying to use words for is tricky.
Or
Right, like,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. At what point does like the use of language inhibit communication? You know? Sorry, Louis, what were you gonna say?
Well, and the fact that there's so many times where you're trying to say something in a painting, but like one of the worst things you can do, I took a graphic design class one time, and the guy was a book cover designer, did like, he did like Jurassic Park's book cover, like one of the most iconic ones, the bones. And like, he was talking about designing, he goes, you would never put a picture of an apple and then put apple above it. You either show a picture of an apple or you show the word apple, but you don't do both,
Yeah, I'm guilty of doing that.
And so like so many times when I'm thinking of like these titles, it's like all I'm doing is telling them apple and showing them apple. And I'm like, I want to like create some sort of mystery where it creates investigation. And that is hard,
Without having it sound contrived.
Contrived,
or
too easy to solve or too, difficult, you know what I mean? Like, so, but the titles are so important,
I kind of think of it in similar terms as like, coming up with like a song title, where, a lot of musicians will come up with song titles by, maybe just selecting a phrase or a couple words or a word from a lyric. And it's like, okay, like that's a valid, way to do that if you want. But you can also come up with a song title that instead of like speaking to the lyrics, it instead like speaks to a feeling or a memory or something like intrinsically, you know, evocative and nostalgic in all of us as human beings, and trying to investigate what that is. I think, yeah, I don't know. I love titling work. I think it leaves a lot of power for, you know, accessibility and relatability.
I like it. Well, we found our person to title all of our work for us.
I actually, one strategy that I have developed over the years that I started doing when I was in art school, on the notes section of my phone, like it's like the notes app or whatever, I have a whole like notes page.
Oh yeah.
That's just, yeah, it's just a huge, massive long list of either like, you know, words or phrases or concepts that I find compelling, and not just like, you know, linguistically how they sound to the ear, but in, you know, their symbolism and their meaning or their relationship to a narrative, or, you know, any one of a number of things, and just write it down and keep a record of this giant list. And then when you have to come up for a title of a painting in a pinch, you can refer back to this list and say, oh, I could see like there being a really interesting relationship between this piece and this concept, or this piece and this feeling, or, you know. That's how I do it anyways.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Audience, you got to tell us how you title paintings. What do you do? I've heard, I think it was an interview with Karen Offit, and they were talking about it, and they were talking about somebody, I can't remember who it was, but, you know, just opens up a dictionary and just, oh, that'll work. You know, that's interesting enough.
Letting fate take the wheel.
Yeah, because people are like, oh, what did they mean? And, you know, there's like all this stuff behind it.
I like that. I'm gonna have to try that.
I was just actively engaged in one of my worst pet peeves, which is needing to put out paint, but you don't want to go get the paint, so you try and mix it any other damn way, which doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, I know that peeve. He's a good friend
You're
of
like
mine.
trying to get away with it.
I know. The color I was missing was titanium white. It's like, girl, how are you going to get around that? Sitting here scraping the dregs of this dried pile, thinking maybe I can just get like a droplet.
It's always the white that needs to be replenished first.
Yeah.
So for the how do you title your work question, Tiago says, I actually think a lot about my titles. It's so difficult, but generally I go to Portuguese ethnography.
Ooh.
Like it.
That's pretty fascinating. Yeah, I think it's a really, you know, and it's so easy for us to be like English centric about it in our thinking, but seeing titles as an opportunity to explore either different cultural barriers, different linguistic barriers, different histories, different folklores, like, and seeing it almost like being less of an artistic tool or a vehicle for artistic meaning, almost seeing it through like sort of more of a historical or anthropological lens of, you know, rather than describing this work, how does this work describe me? So I think that's really amazing. I'd be curious to hear some of your titles in Portuguese.
And then we also had an answer from Benjamin Lester. They say, mother's maiden name and the street I grew up on. LOL.
Now I know your answer is to get into your password.
Uh-oh.
Dun dun dun.
And then Gail says, as much as Erica does, and lots of stuff from the family vernacular. Those things that members of our family say that have many layers of meaning to us.
That's good.
Yeah, do you ever title work in Italian?
I titled a self-portrait I did, autoritratto, which means self-portrait in Italian, because I did it in Florence. It was a whole thing. So it made sense. I wasn't doing it to be cool. It was like, it kind of just fit what I was.
Yeah.
It felt natural to do it. So yeah, that was one of the few times where I'm like, okay, that was an okay title.
That's awesome.
So Joyce says, I'm enjoying watching each of your renditions of the setup.
Well, we're having fun doing it and appreciate you being here.
And then back to the titling thing with Tiago. They say Portuguese tradition is full of gruesome stories, which I'm very interested to hear more of.
Mm.
We have a fun question from Benjamin Lester. If you were a brand of oil paint, what brand would you be and why?
Oh, a brand. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to create some loyalty divides here. No. Interesting.
As somebody who enjoys harvesting their own natural pigment, I don't think I would be a brand. I think I'd just be a patch of dirt somewhere on the ground that became paint.
Or natural pigments.
Yeah. Oh, well, that maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I would be a commercial brand, though.
That's fair.
Yeah. What about you, Erica?
I don't know. I use a lot of, I don't know, like anyone. I use a lot of Old Holland, Michael Harding and Williamsburg, so I'd probably be one of those three. Do you have a particular pigment that you feel like most connected to?
Ooh, oh gosh, that's really a tricky one. I feel a very strong connection to carmine, which is a historical pigment that was used. Let's see, I think it was like really popularized in the mid to late 1700s. I want to say. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But it was used as sort of a cheaper alternative to madder during a time when it was very expensive to import madder that was very difficult to grow in the New World. And carmine is a lake pigment that is extracted from the cochineal insect. And it's historically used as a natural dye by a lot of the indigenous peoples in the Americas. And somebody somewhere, someday, found out about this natural dye and said, hey, I wonder if I can make a lake pigment from this, even though it's not botanical. And they did, and I love it. Long story.
That's cool.
What about you? What pigment would you be?
I'm like divided. I'm thinking about, I really like the magentas and crimsons and things like that. So maybe quinacridone, magenta, or viridian. Even though I don't use it to paint like often,
I could see you being
really
viridian.
like
I
the color.
don't know why. Like, what kind of personality traits does viridian
What does it
have?
mean?
But I could kind of see that. Yeah.
So between those two.
Yeah, we should be assigning, like, what would you think Erica is,
Ooh.
you know?
I feel like this is like,
It's like the artist version of, like, what
Like
is your
astrology and,
Patronus, your Patronus animal, or your spirit animal.
like it's like one of those like magazine quizzes.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
What's your pigment?
Oh, looks like I'm Chandler again.
Oh, what, from Friends?
Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely Chandler.
Yeah, I like all
Honestly, he's my favorite character. I would totally want to be Chandler.
Sorry, Chelsea, what?
I was just saying, like, out of the three of those, the BuzzFeed quiz is like the most politically correct, given J.K. Rowling's stuff and
Oh, yeah.
like using spirit animals is cultural appropriation. So yeah, really, at our core, we really need to like own the fact that, I don't know, our spiritual truth isn't a BuzzFeed quiz more than anything else.
I want to have like a t-shirt that says that.
That was a
Spiritual
really
truth is
long-
not a BuzzFeed quiz.
It's a very convoluted way to communicate that, but I trust you in your ability to fit that on t-shirts.
We'll make it happen. What about you, Louis? What pigment would you be?
I think it'd be more fun for y'all to try to figure out what pigment I would be.
Ooh.
I think that's a much more fun game. Because like my natural tendency would be what everybody's is. It's like, well, what do I use the most? Or like what's my favorite color? But you can probably go deeper in personality if you let somebody else try to say, yeah, I think you would be this.
I feel like he'd definitely be a yellow. Some sort of yellow.
Went a different direction.
Okay, yeah, we've got some kind of yellow. You said cobalt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
I know.
do it.
I don't know why, but I'm taking this very seriously.
Do it.
Shouldn't be
Cool.
taken that seriously.
Uh-oh, that's an evil laugh.
Indian yellow.
Indian yellow. Nice. Nice.
Isn't that the one that's made from the
mango
cow?
urine.
Yeah. No.
No, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, actually.
It's a pretty unique pigment.
It's a beautiful color, and it is a powerful color. So I like it. And I think Sean Cheatham is a badass, and he uses it in every painting. So,
I've got it on my palette right now.
hey, even better. I guess I should give everything else but the bread some love, because like I'm having far too much fun over here painting the bread. You start off the painting going, okay, need to like think broad picture, you know, give everything attention, do all that. No, I'm gonna paint bread.
It reminds me of one of my favorite memes that I need to somehow find. I needed to sit down anyway. It's fine.
Meme break.
Yeah.
We have a message from Gail. Louis needs to talk about his Wednesday webinar. Time for a shameless plug.
Oh yeah, I have a webinar coming up with Portrait Society, and it is called The Riff, and it is about how to steal like an artist, and it's based off of the Pablo Picasso quote of I think it's what amateurs borrow but artists steal, or something like that. And the idea being that all of us don't have original ideas. We all are riffing off of other people, or it's something that's already been done. And how do we do it properly? And like, what are some like do's and don'ts of using influence from people that you admire to help you create your own work, and how to tip your hat to them, but not make work that is like theirs. And I'm going to give lots of examples of showing how artists have done it in the past, everybody from Rembrandt to the present, and giving examples of where there's documentation of them using something else. And some of it is just so evident you don't even need the documentation, you can just see it straight up. And so we're going to go through a lot of those kinds of things, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's a shameless plug, and it'll be on our platform, East Oak Studios platform, right after I'm done with the webinar. It'll be a couple of days probably, but we'll be also putting it, it's going to be at Portrait Society, so you can sign up and watch it there, or if you're a subscriber to our platform, you can watch it there in like a couple of days later. So pretty excited about it, having fun doing the research for it.
What day is it?
It is the 7th, I believe, of December.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but still, working on writing everything up. But thank you for bringing that up. That's awesome.
Oh, I just thought of another pet peeve,
Oh yeah, bring it out.
because it just happened to me.
Confessions time.
When I realize I have not been squinting enough.
That's a good one.
Or stepping back.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not using the mirror. It's my Florence Academy training.
What are you doing?
Use your mirror. When I used to teach the 6 weeks workshop, I did a lot of, okay, everybody, it's time, everybody, use the mirror.
Use your mirror, everyone.
Would be a great time to use it.
I would pay someone to do that job. Just sit in my studio and
Step back.
The money, what I would have done with those, that $1 billion lottery ticket that I bought. That I was for sure thinking I was going to win.
Well, back to the Wednesday webinar. Jackson says that's a super cool topic, and Gail says, "You bet, I'll definitely be attending." And then we have Sue, who says, "So glad Lewis's Portrait Society webinar will be on the EOS platform. I can't attend it live. Thanks."
Oh, awesome, Sue. Well, if it's the same Sue that's part of our open critique nights, so excited for her and always enjoy her submissions and participation. So awesome. All right, I guess I'll give something else some love. As much fun as I'm having over here. Let's see.
So it is the same Sue. It's Sue Braswell. And then Gail also says, "Ooh, say more about the critique nights."
So part of our platform, if you sign up to our emails, you'll see that I do, once a month, I do an open critique night where you can submit a piece of your work, and I spend about a day going through all the submissions and like photoshopping on them and writing notes for them to talk about ways that you may opportunities and ideas of ways that you may want to improve that piece or to take away for your next work. And it's just a good way for my goal for East Oak Studio in the future is to build more of a community environment. And this is sort of the initiation of trying to step in pursuit of that idea. And so, yeah, all you need to do is submit your work. Sometimes send me a reference image of what you're referring to, either like from life or from photo. And then I'll give you ideas either from what is in the reference image or just ideas on how, in a painting way, that you might be able to improve the poetic nature of the piece. So. It allows me to feel like I'm connecting with my audience.
And I feel like we can all kind of attest to Lewis's critiques because he has a really great way of, like, he's not very harsh, and he works well with like getting to know the student and like how they can kind of absorb the information that he's giving them. So if you have any doubts, I'm sure we can all attest to it.
It's one of my favorite art games.
That is awesome. You need to send that to me.
Yeah, I will.
Was that the meme you were looking for?
Yes.
In fact, that would be fun to like see if there's a way we could create a link on our show notes to that meme, since it's shadows that we've been talking about. So.
I was like concentrating. I don't want to walk across several
like,
cameras.
She's like, guys.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, so Chelsea was sharing with us the meme that she was thinking of earlier, the comic.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
And,
I love it.
I'll see if we can put a link in the show notes so that y'all can see it too. Is that online somewhere?
I just airdropped it to that Mac.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to try and paste the link to the chat and make it look up.
Yeah, click on the link and goes back to what we were talking about on shadows. So, which is a lot of fun.
I enjoy when you have to be part of a very specific community to understand.
Yep. I'll never forget, this goes right into that where you're like, you have friend jokes, you know, that only your friends understand. I years ago went and studied on an island, and we were doing like marine tropical fish ecosystem of marine invertebrates and the study of marine tropical fish. And it was like wonderful biology credits that I was trying to get and trying to do them in a fun way. And anyway, you're studying all of these fish and all their scientific names. And when we were done, you know, we have all of this like knowledge, because we you know, we took tests and stuff there to make sure that we knew all the material. And somebody like walks in the airport down, and I'm with my friends, and I'll never forget it. There's a name of a fish, and I looked at that person and I said, "Oh, there goes an Abiduffduff saxatilis," and everybody was like, "Ha ha ha ha!" And I was like, "Oh, this is really bad. This is really bad. That this is funny to us, you know, real nerd jokes here."
I kind of want to ask you to say that name again, but I don't know if I should.
Abiduffduff saxatilis.
Abiduffduff saxatilis.
Mm-hmm. It's a sergeant major fish, which is a black and white striped tropical fish that lives in a tropical area, but it's not a reef dweller. It's around reefs, but it doesn't depend on it.
How does a fish become a sergeant major?
Yeah. Well, that was part of the joke. The guy was in the military. He was walking down the line, you know. So,
I got it.
Which was really funny at the time, but then you realize you're about to enter the real world and you need to get your act back together to what other people find funny.
So a question back to the open critique nights. Jackson says, are drawings accepted in addition to paintings? And then Gail also asks, is it work in any media or genre?
Yes and yes. You can, as far as any media and any genre, just it's more representational. So I don't necessarily critique on like modern work or abstract work. Not that I couldn't, I just wouldn't feel that I would be qualified to push you in the correct direction as far as that's concerned. But absolutely, it's open to drawing and most any subject or any field. One of the things you should do, because you can write in like a comment or questions in there, and in the comment or questions, just tell me what you're having, if you're having trouble or issues or challenges, what those troubles and issues are. And then I can more accurately address a scenario that you might be having trouble with. But regardless, you can put whatever you want, you know, in there. You can just say, hey, I just want a general critique, and, you know, if you see anything that is a pitfall. Or you can say, I'm specifically having a hard time figuring out edges and how to, you know, bring something forward and push something back. You know, and in those cases, I'm happy to direct the critique more to that direction. Done.
We don't need that second day.
Yeah.
Was it just a drawing of a perfect circle?
Yeah, right. What, you're not finished?
I'm painting the best stick figure that anyone has ever painted.
This reminds me of that SpongeBob episode.
Oh, I love that episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
SpongeBob is deep.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, see, somebody that gets me. Chelsea, you're allowed to come back anytime.
I'm really curious what allowed me back all the previous times, but I appreciate it.
I was going to say, as if you weren't. Like,
So this confessions on YouTube here, but SpongeBob is one of my guilty pleasures. It's probably my favorite cartoon of all time, and one of the reasons why is because the comedy at surface is so stupid funny, in a stupid way, but on a deeper level, it's very sophisticated in a lot of ways. And for that reason, I really, really love it, because if you can pick up on some of the nuance of what they're trying to really say in some of the episodes, it just makes it fantastic.
I read or listened to an analysis of that episode that was as millennials, we are all the Squidward in this story. And I forget
awesome.
what line they were drawing, but it had to do with the idea of childlike ease and curiosity versus being an adult and trying to force things to happen, and feeling really stifled, especially creatively. It's been too long since I've encountered this thing to actually communicate it in a compelling way, but
That's awesome.
It gives you such an appreciation for SpongeBob.
Yep. So one of my favorite analyses of SpongeBob is that it's one of many shows that was loosely paired off of each character being one of the seven deadly sins. So
Ooh.
yeah. So
that
so,
took a turn.
Sandy is pride and intelligence. Mr. Krabs is greed. Patrick Star is sloth. And I'm trying to think who is. I can't remember who gluttony is, or unless they're saying Patrick is also gluttony.
Wouldn't greed be plankton?
No, he's envy.
Oh.
He envies greed because, Mr. Krabs is all about the money all the time. That's all
true.
he's about. And Plankton's envy because he envies that Mr. Krabs is so successful. And I can't remember, what's the other ones? Envy, pride, greed. Sloth.
Gluttony?
Yeah, gluttony, I can't figure out who it was. Yeah, Patrick might be both sloth and gluttony. I can't remember what, but there's really interesting correlations to everybody in it. And it was an interesting analysis. It's been a while since I heard it though.
That's have you heard about how each character from Winnie the Pooh represents a different sort of psychological state or mental disorder kind of?
No.
Eeyore is very clearly depression.
Obviously. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Winnie the Pooh is ADD, I think. And, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Oh, I don't know if anybody out there remembers this.
Chime in.
Yeah, chime in.
I like the idea that people chime into this to learn the
Yes.
inner thought of being a master hunter
Yep.
and really wanting to dedicate to yourself to your craft in a serious way. And we're y'all,
SpongeBob.
drop everything and watch SpongeBob. It is deep.
We're a sophisticated bunch over here.
But at the same time, I don't think I would really trust anybody
Wrath.
who.
And lust are the other two.
Oh,
Wrath.
lust. Yeah.
And wrath, yeah.
And wrath. Let me see. I'll have to look it up and see which ones were lust and wrath, because I can't remember which ones they were.
Well, let's see. Jake Waits said, Piglet is anxiety, And then they also said they found SpongeBob and Patrick in real life recently.
Oh, that's awesome. Please tell me you found them in Bikini Bottom.
I'm curious about that. How do you find that in real life?
You go to the beach and you see a starfish that's pink and a sponge
Next to a
that's
sponge.
yellow.
Oh, I was thinking they met somebody who fit.
Oh. Well, at least that's what I took from it, is that they actually were at the beach and saw both a pink starfish and yellow sponge out there.
A sponge floating inside of a pineapple.
Yes. I hadn't even been paying attention to the time. Oh, look at that. We have 5 minutes left. Just kidding. Your face was perfect. Yeah. No, we have an hour left.
Okay.
Why is still life so hard?
I don't know, ask the still life, maybe give you the answer.
It's really interesting to see what part of the still life you guys picked, because Evie and Louie are painting like the bread, but Erica, are you gonna paint the bread, or you? Yes.
Today.
She's gluten free.
I do have some bread in this bowl wrapped in the cloth. So,
You
but
know,
I've been painting everything but that right now.
hey, that's an interesting approach. It's probably a better approach than I'm doing. You know, I'm just excited that like there's no light change happening. Like, you know, the light's going to stay. You know, it's going to be the
It's a
same.
beautiful thing.
And it keeps us honest. I can't come out and paint this tomorrow during the day before we have our next session, because the light is going to be different during the day.
No cheating.
No cheating. All right, so somebody else has to tell their guilty pleasure show that they like to watch. I can't be the only one with confessions here. You have any Bachelor fans? We've already talked about Survivor.
Oh, definitely Survivor. I actually have been checking out one of the reality TV shows that Divya mentioned.
Oh, yeah?
Love is Blind.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, Netflix.
Priest has already watched the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Reality TV, man. It's
Yeah.
so... Oof, it's a vortex.
Sucks you in.
Yeah, otherwise, I did watch Alone.
Oh, sweet.
It was great.
I'm a huge fan of Alone.
Felt very, very bad for those people eating limpets or whatever.
Oh, man.
Oof.
Can you imagine?
No, I really don't want to. I would be the first to tap out for sure.
I'm really sad that I have to wait for more Hour 5 Queen stuff, which is lovely.
Oh, dude, yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, I just rewatched it with a friend, and we finished that, and then we watched A League of Their Own, the new one.
And how was that? I didn't watch that yet.
Quite lovely. It's a really like thoughtful reimagining, like taking a look at the like politics of being black or queer that would have existed when the original movie, like in the setting of the original, that were glossed over.
When was the original released?
You know, I feel like that movie was made in the 80s or 90s.
It was, I was 13 because it was, or I was 11 because my brother had just turned 13 and they went and saw it. So that was 90.
Okay.
Or no, let's see. That would have been, no, that would have been 92. 92. I had to do math.
You did a math.
Exactly. I did a math.
But yeah, now I've run out of gay TV to watch, so I'm sad.
You have to like go back to do reruns of Will and Grace.
My friend is coming back over on Friday, and we need like a new show to watch, and I've been racking my brain all week trying to think like what we could dive into.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I'm watching The Crown right now, but all that makes me do is like hate Charles, so.
I never finished. I started it, several years ago now, and I don't know why. It was really good, but I never finished it.
Yep, same. But I really loved it. Really loved it.
Yeah.
I thought the acting with the first 2 seasons was just phenomenal, and for whatever reason I haven't.
It's not like a sexy show. It's good once you're in it, but it's not like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens next.
Yeah, right. It's not like a page turner type scenario, but it's just good. Like, or at least the acting is so good, you know.
It's not a show, but a movie. Have you ever seen? What is it? Purple is the deepest color.
No, okay, I want to have like a sad.
Oh, it's so good though.
I know one of the reasons why I think it's hard for me to get into the later seasons is because the actors change in The Crown.
Oh.
That's why, you know, because almost every season they have a new queen actress because it's, you know, later in their life, and so everybody plays new roles. And I like loved the people who played the earlier roles, and I think it's hard for me to like want to watch it after knowing, you know.
They actually do a remarkable job with the continuity. Like, it really does feel like the same character.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, the accent work is just really good. I really wish I had brought a canvas that wasn't so textured for this. I'm jealous of Erica's like really juicy, slick texture that she has. I'm about to fall into the trap of piling on
and then ends up like making it worse.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So we have a question from Jose about the still life setup. So any thoughts on how the still life was set up? Did you randomly place the items and rearrange them until it looks good, or was there a certain composition you were going for?
We get to talk about that again.
Yes.
That's fun. Well, my favorite part of it is that it was a collaborative effort. I don't know if I had volunteers or if I voluntold, but I had some fabulous assistance in getting this thing set up and bouncing ideas off of. And we were even commenting on how much fun we were having, because you've had those moments where when you're setting up a still life with people or doing any kind of project with people, and there's sometimes it just doesn't seem to go where everyone feels like there's a good balance between what everybody likes. And for some reason today we were just in sync trying to figure it out. But I basically went out all morning and on the hunt for items to go in, and found this fabulous piece of bread made by a company called La Farm here, which is a bread bakery company. And it's about 1.5 times the size of my head. And I was like, this is going to be perfect, because I wanted a really large object to kind of be a key player in the piece. And we brought it in, and we started coming up with sort of a theme at first. We were thinking like baking, and then that turned into, I don't know, a touch of like just Tuscan garlicky olive oil kind of things, because there's olive oil in the bread. It's called like olive oil, garlic, rosemary bread. And so we pulled that out, and we pulled some garlic out and some shallots, and then we were like, we got some really pretty warm colors. I wanted it to be a very neutral palette of like lighter values, because we just don't do that a lot. And so I thought it'd be a lot of fun to try something different. And so we were just playing with a lot of neutral colors and trying to balance them, and finding other objects in the space that would work. And it worked. At least we like it.
It's definitely a yummy looking still life.
We were just talking about how sometimes the best compositions are when you just roll the dice, and so we have all these different objects in here that, I was like, I can't really roll bread and pottery and throw it up there, so we had to kind of play around with setting that up. But when it came to the garlic and shallots, we tried several different things that felt very contrived, and then I just kind of took them all and just threw them up there, and we were like, you know what, that kind of looks good.
Didn't you make some of the pottery that we see?
I did make some of the pottery. So the white bowl on the right, the one that has the bread in it, that we are trying to play more like it's a rising dough, I made in college. And it's one of my favorite bowls. And we use it often for all sorts of things. I mean, we've put salads in it, and anytime we're cooking, it ends up being one of the sort of bread bowl, kneaded bowls that we use to kind of mix everything together. So has a lot of sentimental value to me.
Yeah, Louis and I, funnily enough, both have a background in ceramics.
Yeah.
So I always really enjoy getting to hear you
Bonded.
talk some clay talk.
Yep. We bonded over that.
Oh yeah. I do not miss kiln programming. Whew.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Although I think there is something to be said for the translation between like glazes, like ceramic glazes and glaze chemistry and pigments.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because you learn a lot about the chemistry behind like different chemical oxides, and that's kind of cool knowledge to have as a painter, knowing like, okay, this particular chemical is very tough and brittle, and you know, maybe then it's going to absorb a lot of moisture from the oil, versus this chemical is really just more of a tinting agent, and it doesn't, you know, really affect the body of the paint too much. Yeah. The alchemy behind it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I really do miss throwing on the wheel though. That was a really fun season of my life. A shout out to Matt Long, probably my favorite art teacher I had in undergrad. Just really inspiring, but also just a down-to-earth, easygoing guy. You know, took his craft and took the world of, you know, art making very seriously, but at the same time didn't take life too seriously. And I think that's a good combination. So many evenings and afternoons spent over at his house where he had a wood kiln, and we would go and he'd play the banjo and we'd, you know, cook some brats on the grill and, you know,
That's the
have a
way to do
beer and,
it.
Do you
you know,
ever,
lots of porch sitting.
do you ever like going out to Seagrove and just talking to the potters?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a artist, regardless of what, you know, medium you're working under, North Carolina is just such a cool place to be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're a painter, there's East Oaks, and you know, there's actually quite a number of galleries in Raleigh, and you know, it's just a really cool creative art scene. But the history of the ceramics here is very, very extensive and really, really fun to learn about and see. Yeah, I love going to Seagrove. It's beautiful.
Chelsea, have you ever thrown stuff on a wheel?
I have only briefly. I took a class at the craft center that's over at NC State, and that was the first time I ever threw anything. And honestly, I would love to keep at it, but it's like really difficult to get into one of their classes because they're just really, really popular.
Come to my house and throw on my wheel.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a date.
Yeah.
That sounds.
We'll have a clay day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Clay day.
Yay.
East Oak Studio field trip.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'll have to show you guys around Durham.
Yeah. But yeah, I would have to totally relearn at this point. It's been too long.
Do you think that like exploring different media in that way, just as kind of like I need a reset, does that like help your process at all?
It's
Or, like,
funny you ask, because one of my, granted I haven't been good about doing this lately, but one of my favorite reset activities is doing some like oil-based clay sculpture.
Oh, nice.
And my rule is like, this isn't to sell, this isn't to put on YouTube, this isn't to like, it's not for any purpose. It's just a nice thing that I get to do.
It's so healthy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like what knitting is for me.
Oh, nice.
I always go into knitting mode this time of year when it gets a little chilly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you need something this time of year. It's, I hate these short days, I hate them.
Yeah, I love the fall and I love the winter. I just don't like the short days. That's all.
Yeah.
I love almost all the other aspects of it.
You mean you don't love depression?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I could never, you know, well, never say never, but I really hope I never have to live in Alaska for that reason, because I just don't think, I think I'd have some serious seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
Although Alaska in the summertime sounds pretty sweet.
Well, that's a different story. I'll be happy to go
I bet
in the
it's
summertime.
like a recipe for some kind of mania, like just sunlight all the time.
That's fair, yeah. I've visited Ireland in the summer a number of times, and you know, that far north, it's not, you know, it's not like constant sun, but it feels kind of like that, especially when you factor in, you know, jet lag and stuff like that, and then it's just sunny until like 10 o'clock at night. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna sleep.
Yeah, I have a friend who's like up in Ireland right now for vet school, and yeah, I asked her how summer was, and she's like, it's great. It's really hard to just calm down and sleep.
Oh, I bet. Gosh.
Utterly beautiful though. Just rolling green everywhere you look.
Jackson Foster says there's an exhibition at the Met right now about potters from Old Edgefield, South Carolina. It was pretty interesting history, especially about the face mugs/jars.
Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah.
There is a very strong tradition of face jugs in North Carolina as well.
Big collector item. A lot of people have like a following, a collector-based following for that.
It creeps me out so much.
They're pretty creepy.
Like, don't mean to be kink-shamey about everyone's favorite pottery.
What did you just say? Kink shamey?
Yeah.
I've never heard that term before.
And we also have a comment from Gail that says knitting with an exclamation point.
Gail.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just so meditative. I think knitting is very therapeutic in a lot of ways for a lot of people. I've taught a lot of my friends how to knit over the years. And crocheting too. I don't mean to.
Yeah, my great-grandmother taught me to crochet.
Really?
Yep.
Ah,
Yep.
That's
I loved
awesome.
it. She was a big crocheter. If that's what you call them.
I think, yeah,
That'll
if you
work.
can say you're a knitter, I
Yeah.
think you could say you're a crocheter. I think that counts. It's the right term.
Yeah, I learned to knit at one point, but that was like teenage years, and I think it was my great-grandmother who taught me that too, but it was one of those things where it didn't make as much sense to me as the other one, so I never really picked it up.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people actually. But, you know, it's just like painting.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Right.
stick with something that kind of at first may not make sense or seem intimidating, you just keep trying and don't let any fear or frustration or anything like that stop you, then eventually you get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gail also says that it's good for your hands. Also, lots of brain building happens. It helped me with my reading difficulties. I learned to knit when I was 6.
Wow.
That is awesome. And I love that.
I think I was about 6 too, actually. I'll never forget, I remember very vividly my mom teaching me to knit for the first time with 2 Ticonderoga pencils. And the thing that I knitted, it was just like a dishcloth. It was like a square, it wasn't anything really. But it was just completely covered in graphite by the time I was done with it.
That's awesome. What a wonderful little story, though.
Thanks, Mom.
Moms are the best.
They are.
Sounds like you have a really good relationship. Both you and Erica, you have a really good relationship with your mom, too, right?
Love my mom.
Y'all are like best friends. Actually,
And
both your parents.
your mom's awesome.
Oh, my mom is, yeah, she's rocking. She's so cool. She is full of life and a fountain of youth. She is has been a teenager for the rest of her life, I think.
I love that.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And she's also a personal trainer they own a fitness gym, and she trains people, and she really gets into it and loves it, and keeps those people looking young and feeling young. So
That's awesome. That's really
ball of
inspiring.
energy. Now, Erica's about to go spend some time with her dad not too long from now. They're going to do a fun thing.
I'm
I have
really
a good relationship with him too.
happy, like moving back home to be close with my family here now.
Yeah.
Like as much as I miss Florence, it's nice to be back with family.
Yeah, really is. Get to be close to your brother, whole crew. My brother moved here 2 years ago, or a year ago. Let's see, no, it's been 2 years. And they moved from Hawaii, and we kind of coaxed them to get over here after the pandemic because they're about to, they're in hospitality. And it's been wonderful having him here. We hang out. We have similar interests, and so we hang out a lot. Similar interests outside of art. So we have a good time. How about, let's see, how much time we have left?
About half an hour.
Okay. I was going to say take a break, but now, since it's only half an hour, I think we might just power through. What do y'all think?
I am fine either way, honestly. I'm glad that we have tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. We'll keep on going. I'm very excited that we have tomorrow too. So earlier today, we had such a fun conversation talking about some odd Christmas traditions that we in our family have, speaking of family. And it was a fun conversation because you get to hear what other people do. So, one of the famous ones in our family, because I'm not going to call anybody else out, they can volunteer whether they want to talk about their family traditions or not. But in my family, one of our really weird traditions is when we were very young. I don't know what it was, but my parents had maybe it was like a Christmas dinner party or something. And they had as one of their hors d'oeuvres was things sitting out, and one of them was a thing of sardines with, crackers and whatnot. And for whatever reason, we got obsessed as little kids on sardines, and it happened to be so close to Christmas that we were like, we want some sardines for Christmas. Because the kids, you know, it doesn't matter. It's like the smallest little thing might be the thing you want for Christmas. But so my mom ended up making that a stocking stuffer, and the tradition just caught. And from then on, all the way till now, we always get like a stocking every year, and it is a can of sardines, which is like the funniest, weirdest thing. So I want to hear if any of the audience out there is free to give some of their fun Christmas or odd Christmas traditions that their family did with them, or any holiday experience. Doesn't have to necessarily be Christmas, but holiday traditional experiences that they may have had.
Yeah, if there's anybody else out there whose family likes to hide a pickle in a Christmas tree, I'd be really curious to hear about that, because I don't know where that came from.
I love this idea. This is hiding the Christmas tree ornament pickle in the Christmas tree. So I had a friend that had this similar experience, and I can't remember what friend it was. And when she said it, it brought back some memory of us talking about it, because this is kind of a novel idea. So then we like looked it up. So then we like looked it up, and it's a bit of a thing. There's people that have this experience. So let us know if there's somebody out there that's actually had this as part of their family tradition as well.
Maybe we need to come up with some East Oaks family traditions.
Oh yeah, we definitely
Holiday
need to make
traditions.
that happen. I feel them coming. So 2 years ago, we had an epic Secret Santa night, and it was a blast. So we're planning on busting that tradition back out again this year.
Thinking we should have some sort of Christmas cookie situation.
Oh, well, that was part of that night. We're going to totally add that to it. We had a Christmas cookie decorating and gingerbread house decorating night.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so much fun.
I feel like the pressure would be so high to decorate something. So, like, literally, I made you a Christmas cookie, and it's a full self-portrait, or not a self-portrait, a portrait of you, completely done in royal icing. I hope you frame it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome.
I actually did make Christmas cookies with royal icing one year for my grandmother, and they were shaped like cats, and I decorated them to look like my grandmother's cats.
Oh.
And I think she still has them. I think they're just like on a shelf,
Preserved.
like super brick hard Christmas cookies.
That does sound really fun, though. Just like cookie decorating and everything.
Well, Chelsea, you're part of our family. You're welcome to come too and join the party.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will be here.
Just note, if you're an artist in Raleigh that is comes over regularly, you become part of the East Oaks family immediately. You get the East Oaks badge.
I like how you welcome me into the family, and then we're like, there's no bar to entry. Like,
No. There's no. Yeah, way to twist my words. Trying to be welcoming to people. No, you are uniquely special to us, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
You're already indoctrinated. It's
Yes. We've already had the red robe ceremony around the fire with the candles. You know, like the Gregorian chants.
Yes.
Whoa. The initiation's already happened.
We have not had anyone that also hit a pickle in the tree. Yeah.
It's all right.
I'm
That's
just-
a cool tradition, and we love it.
I'm just a little extra unique then. It's okay.
We knew that before the pickle story.
Thanks, Louie.
One of my favorite lines that I like kind of hold to, because, you know, us artists sometimes will feel like the misfit toy in a normal group. And I always felt like there's a line from Little Women where the mother's talking to Joe and she's like, you know, frustrated because she's not doing the traditional thing and is really sad that like she's making decisions that are different than everybody else. And she says, you know, Joy, you're an extraordinary person with extraordinary gifts. How do you ever expect to live an ordinary life? And I've always loved that as like, yeah,
That's beautiful.
extraordinary.
Evie, I love watching your bread come together.
Sorry?
I love watching your bread come together.
Yay! Yeah, I had to kind of keep myself from working on it before because I knew that if I started, I would just only focus on the bread.
That's exactly what I did.
But thank you. Well, it's kind of like, I think even with portraits, you know, it's sort of this philosophy of like, I mean, I certainly struggle with this of just like, you want to dive into the face first. And, you know, as a result, everything else can become a bit neglected or just not really quite fit in. And I think in this composition, for me, the bread is the face, you know?
Yeah. It's the shiny object for sure. Chelsea, do y'all have any holiday traditions?
Trying to think. Well, we always do like boozy eggnog milkshakes.
Ooh,
Eggnog milkshakes.
boozy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Boozy eggnog milkshakes.
I like that that's the part you're drawn to.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a boozy milkshake of any type. That's awesome.
Oh, you should go to the Alamo. They have a whole boozy milkshake section of their menu.
What?
So next time you want to go to the movies.
Let's do it.
Oh, that's a movie theater?
That's the one that has like all the old videos that you can like just take out anytime you want, the
Yeah.
VHS.
Yeah, it's a cool
That's cool.
place.
Where is that? Is that North
It's by
Raleigh?
Med. It's like
Oh, okay.
Newport Avenue.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just off 440.
That's a good holiday tradition. I like that. That sounds
Yeah,
like fun.
that's really awesome.
Every Christmas Eve, my family eats chicken pot pie. I don't know why. That's just our Christmas Eve meal.
See, the best traditions are food.
Oh yeah. And then while we eat, we play this like very, very weird old, and by old I mean like antiquated, Christmas trivia game that my grandfather gave to us before he passed. And we kind of have a running joke in our family that if you ever don't know the answer to the question, a really, really solid guess is probably Bing Crosby, because Bing Crosby is just like the answer to like half the questions. Yeah.
That's great. I really like that.
I'll have to bring it over sometime. You'll see that I'm not exaggerating.
Gail says, food traditions, we do have hot and sour fish soup for Christmas Eve.
Sour fish soup. Oh, that's so interesting.
That sounds yummy.
I've never had hot and sour fish. Has anybody else here had hot and sour fish soup?
I've had something
Sounds delicious.
similar to that when I was in India, but I don't know if that's the same dish that they're talking about.
And then Gail says it's halibut, so it's also sweet.
Interesting.
I love halibut.
I feel like I need to give a countdown, but it's 8:48 for everyone.
Thank you.
It's the final countdown.
Somebody had to say it.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes I don't filter what's in my head.
That's gonna be stuck in my head all night.
Oh, I thought you were apologizing to the people listening to that through the microphone.
Yeah, I was thinking of the whistle.
Oh, well, I should be apologizing for that too. It's all right. Okay. Not too bad.
And then we have a question from Ichabod. Is a black and white grisaille underpainting a viable method when painting a still life, or is it wasted time? Lovely work.
That's a good question.
I don't know if it's ever a waste of time because you're practicing understanding value ranges. But
The thing that
if you're
comes to, oh, go ahead.
no, oh, go ahead. No.
No, the only thing that comes to mind is if like what pigment you're using and how dark you're going.
Oh, that's actually a really great point, Sarika.
Which doing that underpainting can be a really good way of making sure you're knowing where you're going before you're painting. But for example, if you have a light painting, like where the whole thing's keyed up pretty high, maybe you don't want to go super dark with how you finish your painting. And then I guess if you, like ivory black, for example, is really slow drying, so maybe if you're using, you might want to be attentive to which pigments you're using and how quickly they dry, so that way you can paint over it and it won't be muddy, because the wet paint is still active underneath. So things to consider.
All good things.
But it's like, it could be a really cool thing too, to be able to have that, and if you want to have layers on top and then have some of the underpainting read through, like I think they're cool. They're still cool ways of using the underpainting and painting over it where it has an interesting effect.
We have a comment from Mustafa. He says, "Hi from Egypt. Lewis grew his beard to paint a self-portrait. Where is the selfie, Lewis? Stop procrastinating."
Mustafa, it is coming along. I'm actually halfway through it right now. So stay tuned, my friend. In about a month, it'll probably be done.
I just deeply want to rat you out and say, by halfway done, you mean I have not started on any part of my face.
Yes.
Ooh, shade.
Yes.
Shade has been thrown.
Yeah, shots fired.
What is the fate of your beard after the self-portrait is done?
I'll probably play around with changing its look a little bit, and then it'll probably be coming off for a little while. I've actually really enjoyed having it. It'll get shorter for sure.
I have not known you any other way, and this is going to be upsetting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true for me too,
I think
actually.
I forgot what you looked like.
Yeah.
I remember that. You didn't have the beard when I met you.
That's so weird to think about, because a lot of my family and most everyone I know has only known me without one. So to have friends that have only known me with it is quite interesting. I look like an average person, which is probably why I still have it. I'm definitely going to be the guy who's going to try to play Santa later on, though. Just bleach out the beard completely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we could paint Louis as Santa for a Christmas special.
Had a drawing error, but it was that I made the bowl that I really am excited to paint too small. So it's like, yay, I get to make it bigger. I love it more.
Which bowl? The little one or the big
little
one?
one.
Yeah.
I'm like very zoomed in around the bread, so I don't have the nice, exciting big bowl.
There's moments where in an instant, millisecond, when someone starts a sentence, you automatically, your brain starts trying to fill in the rest of the sentence.
Oh God.
And when you said I had a drawing error, I thought you were about to be and it was that I started drawing. And, oh gosh.
I mean, I expect that could happen, during the course of a painting where your brain just sort of switches back into drawing mode rather than painting mode.
Mm-hmm.
gonna have my work cut out for me tomorrow.
I feel you.
Now that final countdown, it's just been
Yep.
moving.
5 minutes.
No. You said that like at a very appropriate time.
Well, shit. I've like painted a bowl that I wanted to paint, and then tomorrow I'm gonna have to paint something I don't want to paint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel the same way. Thanks. That's because I want to paint it. Oh, I'm avoiding everything else.
Yep.
I'm kind of excited to paint the bottle, but also kind of dreading it. Mostly because, especially when I squint, I can't see the edges of it, so it's like, ha, no ellipses, except for the one of the actual oil on the top, but...
I'm a little nervous about the oil just because like it requires a certain degree of precision that nothing else here really does, just because depending on the position of your eye line, like the way that it reflects on the inside, on the inside just like shifts so dramatically. Yeah, I feel like I could stumble with that a little bit tomorrow, but that's okay.
Mustafa also asks, are you using liquid or alkyd so that the painting is dry tomorrow?
I'm using medium. That kind of helps a little bit. I'm using like a lean lavender, and that kind of helps dry a little bit faster. But my biggest dryer is just like lead white. So I thought about using titanium, but then I was like, no, it's not going to ever dry. So I went against that judgment. Yeah, right now I'm just trying to set stages for things to happen tomorrow. It's like a big thing I'm working on too. What can I do to like prep for tomorrow? I hope everything's dry for that same reason.
Mustafa also asks, how is Tina in the studio? Does she make noise?
Well, as Tina's studio mate, she's fantastic. So.
Thank you.
That was great. Mustafa has seemed to be putting out a lot of content himself lately. I'm proud of him for adding to the teaching sphere of artists in the world.
That's awesome. Where's he been
He's in Egypt.
adding? Oh yeah, I know. But where has he
Oh.
been adding stuff, like online?
Yeah, yes, he does like online content as well, and has tutorials and uses examples from our videos as well as other people.
Nice.
So
That's awesome. I'll have
Yeah,
to go
he's-
check that out.
he's done some stuff also for Streamline, which is Eric Rhodes' like plein air company, or an online company that he also owns, Plein Air magazine. So
That's really cool. Yay, Mustafa!
Oh, is it? Oh man, everybody.
Oh no.
Looks like we're gonna have to call it. No, no one wants to.
He says while we all continue to paint.
Yep. It's one of those things where, like in the competition shows, you know, brushes down, hands in the air. All right. Well, everyone, I am really excited to put it on the wide angle. We're so excited that this is not the only night we're doing this for our 30th, but we will also be back to finish out these paintings tomorrow evening. So join us at the same time, same place, and we really look forward to seeing everyone. And thank you again for being a part of this. Just a reminder, we are having our Christmas or holiday sale, and all of these demos and paintings that are available, there's a link in the show notes so that you can access it. Also, there's a link for the reference images if you want to paint along. And hopefully we'll see you here tomorrow night, and we'll finish out all of our paintings. Look forward to seeing you then.